All right, saints. As we've seen now, the seals cover the entire church age, the time that men can and will be saved. The trumpets and the bowls of wrath are the same thing. The trumpets are messages to God's people that go into the tribulation and those that get saved during the tribulation. The bowls of wrath are the same as the trumpets, but they're the outcome of those who reject Christ and reject the message of the saints and turn to the kingdom of the beast and the antichrist. And we saw that the first four trumpets are all describing one thing. There are four different viewpoints, four different looks at, four different descriptions of one thing: an asteroid hitting the earth and causing the downfall of Babylon in 1 hour of one day. And we're up now to the 6th and the 7th trumpet. And we've seen how every one of these trumpets is the same as the bowls of wrath. And now we're going to see the 6th and the 7th trumpets, how they completely tie into the 6th and the 7th bowls of wrath. Those on the broad road to destruction, by this point, through the trumpets and the bowls of wrath, they've got you in at least 21 cosmic, crazy, weird disasters. But no, the seals covered the church age. The 7 trumpets and the 7 bowls of wrath are one thing. And there's only 2 things going on in that. One, the first 4 trumpets, an asteroid hitting the earth in an ocean and causing the downfall of Babylon. And then we have the 5th and the 6th trumpets. And that has to do with the coming of Satan. And now we're going to see the 6th trumpet, how it ties in exactly with the 6th bowl of wrath. Revelation 9:13. And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar which is before God, one saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released so that they might kill 1/3 of mankind. Remember, the trumpets are at the very beginning of the tribulation as that asteroid hits and causes its effects and brings down Babylon, brings down the United States from its place of power in 1 hour of one day. So what we have here is the very beginning of the tribulation again. Messages to God's people, to the saints that go into the tribulation and those who get saved in the tribulation. One saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released so that they might kill 1/3 of mankind. Now we're going to come back and go into this a little deeper here because this is very important to see. But first, what we're doing is tying the trumpets and the bowls of wrath together. So let's simply do that and show that clearly first. Because in verse 14, one saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. Now let's look at the 6th bowl of wrath. And the 6th angel, remember, these are a sign. It said in chapter 15 verse 1 that this is a sign. This is not actual angels. This is the results of those 7 angels with the trumpets. It's a sign of those that turn to the kingdom of the beast and the antichrist. And the 6th angel poured out his bowl upon the great river, the Euphrates, and its water was dried up, so that the way might be prepared for the kings of the earth. What did we just read here with the trumpet? Verse 14. Chapter 9, verse 14. One saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. What does this say about the bowl of wrath? And the 6th angel poured out his bowl upon the great river, the Euphrates, and its water was dried up, that the way might be prepared for the kings of the earth. Remember, this has to do with the going into the end of the tribulation and this Euphrates being dried up. But what do? Let's put these things together now. They've been tied. The great river Euphrates. In the trumpet at the beginning of the tribulation, it's blown, and it says, release the four angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And the four angels who had been prepared for the day and month and year. This is once again the beginning of the tribulation, hour one, day one, when that asteroid hits, bringing down Babylon. Hour one, day one of the start of the tribulation. And that's how you can number the days of the tribulation exactly. And the four angels who had been prepared for the hour and day and month and year were released. These are being held back. Holding back, that's total destruction. This always represents destruction, death, wars being poured out over the earth. They were being held back up until that asteroid hits and Babylon falls. And the four angels who had been prepared for that hour, day, month, and year were released. They're released now. So that why? They might kill a third of mankind. They're not going to kill them. The results of them being released will kill them. It's like if you're holding a door shut and you're keeping people at bay that are going to come in and kill your family, and then you just decide to open the door, you've let them come in. That's what's happening here. They're holding it back. And once they're released to let that go, they're letting that come. So that it says, so that they might kill a third of mankind. There's over 8 billion people on earth right now. Very few are going to be caught up in the pre-tribulation rapture. So almost 3 billion people will die during the tribulation. And we're going to see why and how. So that Babylon falls in 1 hour of one day from that asteroid hitting. And then these four angels are released, and a third of mankind, over 2.5 billion people, are going to die. Why? Here's the answer. Yes, you'll have the effects of the asteroid, and it'll wipe out a third of Babylon, a third of the United States. And it'll cause a lot of problems. But here's the main thing, other than that, that's going to go on around the world. Verse 16. And the number, these angels are released, and so a third of mankind will be killed. And immediately says, and the number of the armies of the horsemen was 200 million. I heard the number of them. So these armies are released, as these angels are released, as a third of mankind's going to die. These armies are released, 200 million man armies. You put the top 10 militaries, United States, China, India, Russia. You put the top 10 militaries' armies together, and it isn't even 15 million. Here it says, and the number of the armies of the horsemen is 200 million. As the United States falls from power, and its money, its stock market, its military, its influence, its buying, selling, trading, the nations of the earth will fall down. The kingdoms, the mighty kingdoms of the earth will fall down too, because they're tied into the United States money, stock market. They depend upon its government and its giving and its buying, its selling, its trading. When America falls in 1 hour of one day, those nations will fall too. And that will be what creates these 200 million man armies. It's not some weird armies of weird demons flying around. We'll see what this is. But it is 200 million man armies as these countries falls, as the United States falls. Like I've had many messages about these illegal immigrants that are flooding all around the cities of the world. I just saw in the news where Sweden is sending out its army to try to control the illegal immigrants there that are killing and rioting and stealing. It's starting to go on in the United States. The United States right now is allowing these illegal aliens to flood every part. When the United States falls, the United States is bringing them in, transporting them, giving them money, giving them food, giving them luxury hotel rooms, let them staying in police stations and airports. if the United States falls from power in 1 hour of one day, what do you think's going to become of them? There's millions of tourists in the United States at any given time. If the United States falls from power and all commerce, all airlines, all travel stops, as you saw in 9/11, just from 2 towers falling, imagine all of it stopping. They're all going to be stuck here too, those tourists, and in these cities around the world. And this is going to be part of that 200 million man army. Just look at the United States or any city. These immigrants from their nation, their tribe, their race, their tongues, their peoples are going to be gathering together in groups to try to protect themselves, to try to feed themselves, to try to take care of themselves. Especially in the United States, they'll be stuck here with nobody to help them, nobody to give them a way out of here. They'll be stuck in these cities. All travel is going to stop. And that will be part of it. But these nations will rise up with their armies, making multiple, bringing in endless people, drafting them, bringing them in to make their armies much bigger when each country, nation, race, people tries to protect their own land, their own food, their own water, their own borders. And this will all, in the end, give rise to the kingdom of the beast and the antichrist and their armies, all together around the world, where there isn't even 15 million in the top 10 nations in the world, military people in their armies. All of a sudden you'll have 200 million man armies around the world, as people around the world are protecting themselves, their border, their water, their food. These illegal immigrants and tourists that'll be stuck all around the world, they'll be having to get together, and they'll be making their own militias and groups to try to protect themselves. And we got so much more to go on in there, but for today we don't have that much time. So let's just tie these two together, the sixth bowl. And the sixth angel poured out his bowl upon the great river, the Euphrates, and its water was dried up, that they might be prepared for the kings of the east. This is going to the end of the tribulation, to the Antichrist, and to those that have turned to him. And this is the end of the tribulation. The Euphrates will dry up. You already see in news report after news report that parts of it are drying up now, with all the droughts going on, with all the dams being built. It's easy to see that this can easily happen at any time. But now, this is the end of the tribulation. It's preparing the way for the kings of the east, those armies of the kingdom of the beast and the Antichrist that are going to come together against Israel. In verse 13, and I saw coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, 3 unclean spirits like frogs, for they are the spirits of demons performing signs, which go out to the kings of the whole world to gather them together for the war of the great day of God the Almighty. See, this is the end of the tribulation, as those that in the kingdom of the beast and the Antichrist, and those armies that are going to align themselves with them, are coming up against Israel. And the kings of the Euphrates will be dried up, and they will have a way to come in a vast army. But God is preparing these things. I just had that other short message about God is in charge. God is doing these things. God, even with Satan, God is bringing about his purpose, because it's God's purpose. In the end, God is getting us. God is preparing us. God is making us the best and the most we can be throughout the eternal kingdom of God. That's God's purpose. Not whether you got an extra house, 2 cars, 100,000 in your bank, no money in your bank, need more clothes. That is the temporary. That's this world and the things of this world. God's preparing us for his eternal purpose, and that we would grow up, no longer desiring that milk of babes, but take that meat of the word, that God has his purpose. And Satan and God at times are in alignment to have God's purpose fulfilled. And even in Israel, in those last days, God's going to bring them to the place through the preaching, teaching, death, resurrection, and rapture of the 2 witnesses. They're going to turn to Christ. They're going to be born again. They're going to be the church in Israel. And they're going to reject the kingdom of the beast and the antichrist, and then he's going to want to come against them and wipe them out. But God is going to prepare them for battle, and God's going to come back. Christ is going to come back with us on those white horses and put an end of all that. As God has had his purpose in and through us, God in all, through all, as we repent and prepare the way of the Lord.